Hello fellows, welcome to my channel. This channel is entirely dedicated and created for educational purposes only. Here you can find high quality educational materials to learn the basics, whether you are a beginner, more advanced or an intermediate trader. For people that want to see more action, you can check the link on the top right corner and also the Reddit community created for you. Here, we are proving our methods with real accounts. We trade for several years, and we show that it can be done profitably. You can subscribe as all profits go to our subs. You can find all the details about our accounts. However, since you are new in trading, using real money is almost forbidden. Practice will make you better, and do not expect fancy cars and fake promises. Trading is real challenging, and the numbers are against you. You won't need any money to start, and everything is totally free. For most of our videos, you will find a link in the description that will lead you into a more advanced version of the video, but as beginners, I do not recommend. Stay with the basics and demo trading. So let's begin your journey. But when can you actually trade Forex? What are the best time zones and the more efficient ones? In this episode, we will cover this topic from start to end and all important trading sessions around the world. You know what is the Forex market, how you can trade and make profits based on your assumptions, your speculations and your positions, why you should trade it. It's time to learn when you can trade. The market is 24/7 open, as we have said, but there are times that the market is more active. In this episode, we will learn about trading sessions. As we said, the market is open 24 hours a day, but that doesn't mean it's always active the entire day. You can make money when the market moves up or down, but you will have a very difficult time trying to make money when the market doesn't move at all. There will be times when the market is standing still, like a stone. This episode will help determine when is the best time of the day to trade. Let's check the Forex market hours. To understand the relativity of the time in our world, we will look at the entire world market clocks. The Forex market can be broken up into four major trading sessions: the Sydney, Tokyo, London, and New York. Historically, the Forex market has three peak trading sessions. Based on your time zone and when you live, you can focus in one session. It is impossible to stay awake 24/7. Traders often focus on one of these three trading periods rather than attempt to trade the market 24 hours per day. This is known as Forex 3-session system. These sessions consist of the Asian, European, and North American sessions, which are also called Tokyo, London, and New York. The combined share of the top four trading centers, which includes also Hong Kong and Singapore, amounts to 75% of the global FX turnover. The trading date line is where the new calendar day starts. Since New Zealand is a major financial center, the Forex markets open there on Monday morning, while it is still Sunday in most of the world. Even though trading starts in New Zealand, it's still called the Sydney session. When most American traders have gone home, most Aussie and Kiwi traders are getting ready to shoot the market. The market is closed at weekends. The crypto market remains open 24/7 even in weekends, and we will create a separate section dedicated to this topic, so don't worry about that. There are just two public holidays when the entire Forex market is closed: Christmas and New Year's Day. In order to identify the market watch easier and the sessions, there are several sites that can guide you on when the market is open based on these three major sessions we mentioned. There is also another mess while changing based on daylight savings time. Open and close times will also vary during the months of October, November, March, April, as some countries like US, UK and Australia change time. The day of the month that a country shifts to DST also varies, confusing us even more. The big winner, of course, is Japan, which doesn't observe daylight savings. And still, my personal big question is why on earth we change time? Now, you are probably looking at the Sydney Open and wondering why it shifts 2 hours in the Eastern time zone. You'd think that Sydney Open would only move 1 hour when the US adjusts the standard time, but remember that when the US shifts 1 hour back, Sydney actually moves forward by 1 hour. Sessions are opposite in Australia. It is a mess, I know, but there is a solution, and that's why we are here. As I mentioned, I will put links in the description to identify your time zone and the different trading sessions with details, but still you need to know the information and some deeper analysis to widen your perspective in a market that constantly moves around the world. Take notice that in between each Forex trading session, there is a period of time where two sessions are open at the same time. These overlappings are ideal for trading and the most active. For example, during the summer, from 3 to 4 am, the Tokyo session and London session overlap. During both summer and winter, from 8 am to 12 pm, the London and the New York session overlap. This 4 hours window that both markets are open is usually the most active. These are the busiest times during the trading day because there are more transactions. When two markets are open at the same time, this makes sense because during those times, all the market participants are willing to make transactions to the market. In this table, you can see the average range in pips per pair and per session. Blue for Tokyo, orange for London, and grey for New York. As you can see, the most active session is the London session and New York. Now, based on what we said, you can understand that the market is most active when these two sessions are overlapping each other, the London and the New York session. Of course, this is not the rule. You might trade any session is suitable for you as long as you can understand the needs and the specification and also the characteristics of the pair you are willing to trade. Based on the average pips movement, we will discuss also the volatility in the market and how it is affected from liquidity. We will analyze liquidity in another episode as it remains a key factor that will affect your trading plan. But for the moment, stay with me. Let's move on and check each session and the specification separately. In this 3 Forex session system that we have analyzed, I will start with the one that opened first based on the international date line, the Tokyo session. The session that gives the first light. Even though the Kiwi and Australia comes first, the market is becoming alive in Tokyo session. For traders living in USA, the trading day actually begins on Sunday night. However, liquidity doesn't really show up until Tokyo opens a few hours later. The opening of the Tokyo session marks the start of currency trading in Asia. The market starts dancing. Of course, this is the early party, and like a nightclub, we need to expect more people for the real party to start. As the party goes on and markets are opening, the market becomes more active. The Tokyo session is also referred to as the Asian session. This makes more sense, and at least most of the times, and for me personally, I will use the term Asia session. Japan is the third largest Forex trading center in the world. Around 90% of all Forex trading volume take place during the Asian session. There are also some other major financial centers, such as Singapore and Hong Kong. Most Forex trading volume comes out of Singapore and Hong Kong than in Tokyo. Both Singapore and Hong Kong stands at 7%, while Japan has 4.5%. Now you understand why the Asian session terms makes more sense. I will return to the previous table and we will check the average pip movement in Tokyo session. Pip values while calculating using averages of past data. While this information might seem important, the market is unpredictable. However, it will be a useful weapon to create your trading strategy, and you will see it in action and how to use it in the future. Here are some key characteristics that you should know about the Tokyo session. Thousands of Forex transactions are also made in other financial centers like Hong Kong, Singapore, and Sydney. Tokyo is not the only place. Market participants during the Tokyo session are commercial companies, central banks, and institutional players. At this point, I won't refer to us, to retailers yet. Remember, Japan's economy is heavily export dependent. Note that when your economy is based on exports, you want a cheap currency for your transactions. This will come in time, and as you observe the markets, people with financial skills will be able to understand easier the concepts. However, it's not a rule. In the Forex market, nothing is written in stone. China is also a major trade player. There are a lot of transactions taking place on a daily basis. Due to liquidity, there will be times when trading during this period, the market won't be so active. You are in Asia session, so you will be stronger and you will notice stronger moves like the Aussie, the Kiwi, as opposed to non-Asia Pacific pairs like the cable. During those times, most pairs may stick within a range. This provides opportunities for short-term day trades or potential breakouts when bigger markets open. Most of the action takes place early in the session when more economic data is released. As we said, Tokyo gives the first light, a glimpse of what will follow in the markets. Traders in the later sessions will look at what happened during the Tokyo session to help organize and evaluate what strategies to take in other sessions. You might see it several times, and this is a small tip. But typically, after big moves in the New York session, you may see consolidation during the Tokyo session. So, what pairs to trade during the Asia session? Goes without saying, and if you use your common sense, you are in Asia. The pairs you should trade are what you expect. The Aussie, the Kiwi. As Japan comes out, this presents a good opportunity to trade news events for these countries. Also, there could be more movement in JPY pairs as a lot of yen is changing hands with Japanese companies. China is also an economic superpower, so whenever news come out from China, it tends to create volatile moves. Both Australia and Japan rely heavily on Chinese demand. We could see greater movement in Aussie and JPY pairs when Chinese data comes out. The London session. But when can you trade the London session? When the Asian market is closing, the Europeans begin their day. One of the most important sessions. While there are several financial centers all around Europe, the London is the most important one. Historically, London has been the center of trade thanks to its strategic location. London benefits from its time zone. Morning overlaps with late trading in Asia and afternoon with New York session. It is considered the Forex capital of the world with thousands of transactions every single minute. More than 40% of all Forex transactions happen in London. The London session is also referred as the European trading session. Aside from London, there are also some major financial centers open in Europe, like Frankfurt, Zurich, Luxembourg, Hamburg, Edinburgh, Amsterdam, Geneva, Paris, and so on. I will present the same table with average pips per session. As we can see, London is the more active one. Some important tips you should know about the London session. Because crosses with two other major trading sessions and London being the key financial center, most of Forex transactions take place during that time. This means that we have high liquidity and potentially lower transaction costs. Remember what we said about spread. So indeed, the more supply and demand, the tighten the spreads and lower the commissions. The London trading session is normally the most volatile session. Most of transactions take place there. Trends begin during the London session and they will continue until the beginning of the New York session. Remember, we are talking about Forex, so nothing is written in stone. We are giving some general guidance. For no reason, don't try to trade with any real account. Your journey has just begun. There is a small window during lunch before waiting for the New York trading period to begin. Trends can sometimes reverse at the end of the London session, as European traders may decide to lock their profits. I think it's obvious which pair you should trade. Due to liquidity during the European session, almost any pair can be traded. Better to stick with a major, the Euro USD, the GBP USD, USD GPY, USD CHF, and take advantage of these beautiful and juicy tight spreads. You can also try the yen crosses, more specifically the Euro GPY, JPP GPY, as these tend to be pretty volatile at this time. Because these are cross pairs, and remember what we said about the cross pairs, the spreads might be a little wider though. Again, I do not recommend to start with so many pairs. Start with one, and as you start widening your knowledge, you can proceed. And now the party has begun. New York is opening. Both London and New York are open. And this is the most active moment of the market. Breakouts are more common and major trends might reverse or continue even stronger. When European traders are getting back from their lunch breaks, the US session begins. Traders start strategizing their position and preparing their entries. The US session has one major financial center that all the markets keep their eyes on. The city that never sleeps, New York. More than 50% of all forex transactions happen in New York. The New York session is also called as the North American Trading Session. There are major financial centers open in North America as well, such as Chicago and Toronto. I will bring again the table with average pip movement during the New York session. When the New York and London session are overlapping is the most active period for the market. Here are some key elements while trading in the New York session. There is high liquidity as it overlaps with the London session. Most economics reports are released near the start of the New York session. Remember what we said about the US dollar and how popular it is. About 85% of all traders involve the US dollar. So whenever big time US economic data is released, it has the potential to move the markets. The US dollar is the king in transactions and the one that everyone has an eye on it, as we explained. Once the European markets close, liquidity and volatility tends to reduce. Friday afternoon and the party is almost over. The Asians left early, the Europeans went home, but there are still some Americans fight their way through. Friday afternoon is the time that the market is less active. Also on Friday, there is the chance of reversals in the second half of the session as the US trader closed their position ahead of the weekend. So which pair should you trade? There is a ton of liquidity. Both sessions are open, so practically any pair, although it would be best if you stick with major and avoid exotics, as we described. The US dollar is one of the other half of the majority of the transactions, so everybody will be paying attention to the US data that is released. The news released and related to the US dollar will be dramatically affect the market. We will make a separate video on how to trade the news, so stay with me for the moment. So what is the best time to trade Forex? I'm sure that you're probably confused. We need to search when the market is more active. Even though this is not always the case, and you will remember my words, when you will start trading. Logically, you would think that this happens during the overlapping between these two sessions. Well, you are almost right. So, what happens? When Tokyo and London overlap, liquidity is pretty thin. Typically, there isn't much movement during the Asian session, with the European traders just starting to get into their offices. Liquidity dries even more. This would be an ideal time to strategize and think of your moves, potential trades to take during the London and New York session. And here is the answer. The winner is London-New York overlap session. Liquidity is at an optimum level at around 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. London time. This is when the real party begins. Music is at the maximum level and you can imagine shots all over the place with prices dancing on the floor. This is the busiest time of the party as traders from the two larger financial centers, London and New York, begin to shoot the market. It is during this period that we can see some big moves, especially when the news for US and Canada are released. Late news coming out of Europe and other major events. Trends established during the European session most likely will continue in the US sessions. The US traders decide to jump in an established trend. They are trying to make profits by securing their positions after reading up on what happened earlier that day. Since currency prices fluctuate from second to second, a daily reference point is needed. It's important to know that it is during this period where the WM Refinitiv Spot benchmark rate is determined, also known as London Fix. The rate is set at 4 p.m. London time. A currency fixing is a set time each day when the prices of currencies for commercial transactions are set or fixed. Think it as a point to stand as a reference point for the rates. Banks and other financial institutions use this daily rate to set their currency exchange rates. An FX rate taken at the spot 30 to 40 minutes before. Lastly, some European traders may be closing their position as their day ends, which could lead to some strange and choppy moves in the market when the US traders return from their break. We know the best time of the day to trade Forex, but let's check what is the best days to trade Forex. We know that the London session is the busiest, but there are also certain days in the week where all the markets tend to show more movement. In this table that I am presenting, we see the average move per currency for each day. It's best to trade during the middle of the week, since this is when the most action happens. Fridays are usually busy until half of the day. After that, the market is quiet until closing. Your weekend as a trader just started. You can spend the millions you earn in trading. Well, not even close. You need to try a lot, and I hope you get there. So based on what we've learned, the busiest and the best days of the week to trade Forex are mid of the week. The busiest times are usually the best times to trade, since high volatility tends to present more opportunities. You need to make some decision as a trader. I know it's not easy, and I'm lucky since I'm in Europe, but you need to identify the best time to trade. There are many opportunities, no matter what trading session you will choose. Trading is very risky, and we have discussed that several times, but also comes with a reward. The Forex market is open 24 hours daily. It doesn't mean that action happens all the time, but also it doesn't mean that there are no opportunities during other than the time frames we mentioned. As beginners, and since you are still learning, don't build any expectations. You will have plenty of time to read and study your market. Play with several demo accounts, and we will also be with you to help you with your journey. Every trader should know when to trade and when not to trade. And that's why we are here, to equip you with the tools to get prepared for the market. Take some notes, and when is the best time to trade the market. When the two sessions are overlapping, of course, we discussed that it's crystal clear. Make sure you have noticed the market hours and your session hours. Also, make sure that you are aligned with the local time and all the information you need. The European session tends to be the busiest out of the three. This doesn't mean that there are no opportunities in the other two sessions. The middle of the week typically shows the most movement. And now, let's see the worst time to trade. The worst times to trade. Sundays, of course, because everyone is still sleeping. The Friday afternoon, because the market is closing, traders start closing their positions. Holidays, some major news events. We will make another episode about the news, so don't worry, as it is a huge chapter in trading. Trading requires clean mind, huge self-control and discipline, and some other skills you need to get in time. Don't trade when you are not balanced. Psychology is a huge factor in trading, and it will cost you a lot. If you don't want to trade during the day, well, there is a solution also for that. It's called swing trading. You use larger time frames, and I told you that there is always solution. So stay tight. We will make another episode on swing trading, and I will give you examples with some trades that I'm keeping for months. If you are excited, I think you are in the perfect spot. Thank you for watching my video. Go back, repeat the chapters you are not sure, subscribe, and help us make more content. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching our videos. I hope you enjoy. You know that we need your subscriptions, likes, and comments for the YouTube algorithm. Help us to make more content and trade safe.